Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm the tier leader for VGC UU. Today we're going to be going over the survey results from our recent tiering survey and, well, what came after that. So, to start off with, Zation Hero. Basically, we put on our tiering surveys the three big restricteds plus whatever else is feeling problematic at the moment. Zation Hero, it's really unproblematic. Like it's just one of the best restricteds in the meta, and it does what it's supposed to do. It's pretty honest overall. It doesn't really like do anything that I would consider anywhere near like suspect worthy or ban worthy even. Like it's really strong and it's really fast, but there are a lot of mons that wall it very easily, and they take it on very easily, and it gets put out of position a lot by restricteds like NDM especially. That just kind of and Terrifier Groudon that just kind of sit in front of it and damage trade really well into it. Like don't get me wrong, it's still very good. It's just not at all problematic. Like there's not really any like broken elements to it at all. Saying Groudon is definitely a little more polarizing, but I think there is a different reason for that, which we'll get to a bit later on. But if you look at this, like it's a pretty high distribution of threes. Like 6 3s is a pretty like stark distribution. No fives though, which means like realistically no one is like 100% in favor of banning Groudon. And I think there's a reason for that we'll get to in a little bit. But NTW has had a little bit more mixed like results because of this, because of it's definitely a bit more polarizing than Zacian because are a lot more sets you can run on it, and those sets are a lot more polarizing than I would say Zacian sets are, because a lot of Zacian sets are just all out attacker, SD, CB. Like I don't think there's a lot of different counterplay for any of those, but like when you have Necrozma, you have to worry about like Heat Wave, you have to worry about specs, you have to worry about Life Orb, you have to worry about Meteor Beam, you have to worry about its partners as well, because Necrozma Wings does a very good job of enabling like Trick Room partners, which is very annoying for a lot of the metagame. Like a lot of the metagame is pretty fast and pretty like offensive, and not a lot of like there aren't a lot of Trick Room teams, so NDW being able to pack Trick Room as like a secondary option is very good for it. And Indeedee just allows NDW to spam Me-Force. There are a couple people who think it's a little bit problematic, but by and large, it's not particularly problematic. I think Indeedee has fallen off a little bit, personally, since the beginning of the regulation. I definitely think it has fallen off a lot. Like, I think NDW structures are focusing more on, like, Blood Moon and stuff like that for forms of spread damage rather than, like, Expanding Force, because I think Expanding Force is just kind of unreliable, because it means you're forced to use NDDM, which is kind of a shitmon. It's not like NDDF where it's, like, it actually gives you good utility through, like, Follow Me Helping Hand, Follow Me Helping Hand, Trick Room. It's not bulky enough, and it's not, like, particularly strong, so you don't necessarily feel as good using it as you would with NDDF, or even, like, Tapu Lele if it was in the gen. But yeah, so, like, I think NDDM is just a little too, like, underpowered for the format, and I think, like, low-key, it's just not very good. Like, I think it's DDM structures have kind of fallen off, and I don't think necessarily. I think this is kind of reflecting a little bit. Like, I think Expanding Force in general is a super uncompetitive move, but like this format, especially with how like King Gambit's been rising up, it's very like apt to deal with it, and it's very positioned to deal with it. So then we have the two culprits of why Groudon is voted so high. We have Sleep Powder and we have Jumpluff. And if you look at the Sleep Powder distribution, it's basically the exact opposite of the NDW distribution, 7 5s. And for Jumpluff, Jumpluff is a little more mixed, because, I mean, if you look at this, like 2 2 5 2 4, like versus 1 2 1 4 7. Yeah, like the difference between like Sleep Powder and Jumpluff is like pretty stark. So in the end, this did lead to a Sleep Powder suspect. So we are going to be suspecting Sleep Powder currently. Because of the difference between these two, basically we put out the survey partially to judge, like, do we want Jumpluff banned, or do we suspect Jumpluff or Sleep Powder? And because of how much higher, like, Sleep Powder's average score was, we landed on Sleep Powder overall. Because while Jumpluff is, like, basically the primary user of Sleep Powder, there are other Sleep Powder users, and overall the move is just, like, pretty uninteractive. Like it's just kind of just uncompetitive from a tiering perspective. So there isn't much reason to vote to ban like Jumpluff over Sleep Powder. But yeah, so this is survey results. I'm gonna get into after this. I'm gonna get into my personal thoughts on the suspect and like some of the suspect reasoning, some of the arguments surrounding Sleep Powder, and like why I personally think it's broken. Okay, so to take a look at some of the Sun teams that have done like well recently. These three, so Mike's Sun, Feast's Sun, and my Chennai team. Basically, all three of these have one thing in common, and it is Groudon, Zacian, Jumpluff, Walking Wake. You know, I mean, this is the quintessential Sun core. You've seen it so many times. Basically, what this core does is it has your like bulky Sun setup on Groudon, has the bulky, the fast SD Zacian, Tailwind Jumpluff with Sleep Powder, the offending move, and Speed Booster Walking Wake because it's really good into these three. And so because of that, now you have to do a lot of things to actually tech for the mirror. Like if you look at this if you look at like Mike's team versus my team, there's one mon different. You know, he has the safety goggles Arcanine. I have the Magmar. And if you really look at this, like Magmar gets Vital Spirit. And realistically, when you're playing these teams, like when you're playing the mirror matchup, when you're playing Mike's team versus my team, what's going to end up happening is there's going to be at least one turn in this game where you're going to have to risk it on if Sleep Powder hits. You're going to have to just hope and pray that you can get to either a position where the Jumpluff dies and does nothing, or the Sleep Powder hits and then you're able to pull ahead, or you get lucky with the sleep turns and you don't even have to worry about it. Basically, I think the worst part about Sleep Powder, by far, is how much it polarizes the Sun Mirror around very specific lines and very specific mons. Like using this team, the optimal line into the mirror is literally just to lead Zacian plus Magmar and just go from there. Like straight up. I have had games where I've just led Zacian plus Magmar into their Zacian plus Magmar. They had the faster Zacian than mine, so they won the game. That's just how it goes, because when you have Zacian plus Magmar, then and your Magmar gets like into this matchup. Basically, your Magmar gets very tasked with dealing with a lot of threats. Like the Magmar has to handle the Walking Wake, it has to handle the Kingambit, it has to handle the Zacian defensively, in addition to the Jumpluff Sleep Powder. So the Magmar on these kind of structures gets very taxed very quickly defensively because it's like forced to handle a lot of very strong threats that it's not necessarily able to handle very well, at least not on its own. And that's the big issue. It's very hard to build a viable Sun structure that doesn't just lose the mirror to sleep without Electabuzz and or Magmar. Like Electabuzz and Magmar polarize these matchups a lot because of how like well they match up defensively into these teams. Like if you look at Terra Water Magmar, Groudon can't really touch it. Well, Jumpluff obviously can't touch it. Wake can't touch it post Terra. Gambit can kind of touch it, but like you wisp Gambit anyway, so it's not that big a deal. And Zacian, obviously, like pre-Terra, you wall the fuck out of Zacian. But yeah, it's just like Magmar does so well defensively into structures like this that a lot of the times the Jumpluff is given free reign to just go in right after the Magmar dies. Because a lot of the times you're just going to be leading Magmar and it's just going to be dying straight up into these teams. And if your Magmar dies, then that is probably the linchpin of your like counterplay and Sleep Powder just dead. Just off the field. Like it means that Jumpluff can literally just go in and sleep. And there's like nothing you can do about it, pretty much. I think the biggest issue with Jumpluff overall is just that like on structures like these, you don't even have to click Sleep Powder. That's the thing. Like on structures like this, you don't have to click the inconsistent move. You don't have to click Precipice Blades. You don't have to click Play Rough. You do not have to click Draco Meteor. You do not have to click Sleep Powder. You can honestly go throughout this. You can click Tailwind. You can click Rage Powder. You can click Pollen Puff. Like all of these mons, you can get Heat Crash. You can click Hydro Steam. All of these mons have so many like no drawback moves that you're able to just safe clicks. Like player F is not necessarily always a safe click, it's usually a safe click, but Heat Crash, especially Terrifier, Heat Crash, and Sun, it does so much damage to like basically the entirety of the format that it's a very, very safe click overall. There's like almost nothing that actually like doesn't like taking that. Rage Powder is just so high value because you're able to actually redirect away from your restricteds, which, I mean, especially into a Sash mod, like that's 2 free hits redirected. Tailwind is obviously just like getting the free speed advantage on this mod that's already like really fucking fast. In addition to the fact that you can, if you need to, like if you absolutely need to get bailed out, you can click the Broken Sleep Powder button. That's the thing I think I dislike the most about it. Like, you don't even need to click Sleep Powder. Even the threat of like Sleep Powder on preview is enough to pressure your opponent. Like, I'm going to use this replay as an example. So here into Luna, I lead Jumpluff plus King Gambit. And King Gambit's very scary for Luna, obviously, right? Because double into him, outside of like Zacian and Keys, she doesn't really have a way of actually breaking King Gambit very well, especially once I Terra Dark. So basically what I'm able to do here is I'm able to lead, but I'm able to lead, what I'm able to do here is I'm able to lead Jumpluff plus King Gambit. Because this is what this is able to do. It's able to threaten sleep into both of these. Because one of her biggest forms of sleep counterplay is Misty Terrain on Klefki. Well, she's basically forced to click Misty Terrain plus Terra Normal Calm Mind here in order to dodge the sleep immediately. Now, the other thing that's important to note about this is that she has Will-O-Wisp on her Torracat, and that is probably the biggest threat to like shutting down this Gambit, and also later in the game to shutting down my Zacian and or Groudon if I choose to not Terra Groudon. And because of that, because I'm able to force her to click Misty Terrain here, because of this like overwhelming pressure of Sleep Powder, what I'm able to do is I'm able to like swap out. I don't even have to actually keep Jumpluff on the field here. I can preserve its Sash. I can just, because of how passive this board state is, because she's forced to click Misty Terrain, otherwise she just goes to bed, I can get in Zacian. I can break multi-scale here for free on Lugia. And now this Zacian is in a really threatening position because it's able to SD up to get through the Reflect. I'm able to continue to click Kowtow Cleave into this Lugia to keep multi-scale down. And now I'm able to just start applying pressure into this Lugia. And even there, you see like this Lugia crit me, but I have still a full of Zacian. Like, this is still like insanely over. Because what does she even do? She has Misty Terrain up for at least another turn, so even if Torracat comes in here, it can't even actually burn. And this is the big problem, right? Like, Jumpluff is able to come, and even now, like late game, like Jumpluff is still lingering him back. And once this Keys goes down, it won't be able to reset the Misty Terrain, so I can just put everything left on the board to sleep. So what happens here? You see the Torracat come in. Protect. A really nice Precipice Blades off here, and I crit the Torracat, which is really unfortunate, but it probably makes up for the crit on the Gambit earlier. But yeah, so now Keys comes back in. And now because of that Jumpluff and back, it's just forced into clicking Misty Terrain. And it's because it has to respect the pressure of Sleep Powder and has to respect the possibility of not losing to that. So now, Jumpluff comes in, and this is just a really easy Heat Crash into Heat Crash. And that's over. But yeah, like if you look at this replay, Jumpluff, it didn't even have to click, it did not click Sleep Powder at all this game. It clicked Pollen Pluff once to kill Zacian, and it clicked Tailwind once. And every other turn it was out, it swapped out. It did nothing. It did nothing other than pressure like Valerie's board state. And that's all it needed to do. Because of its overwhelming pressure to sleep and how like it's able to shut down like entire board states by just spamming Sleep Powder, it was able to threaten out the Misty Terrain. It was able to prevent the Torracat from burning my King Gambit and prevent it out from coming out sooner. it was able to allow my King Gambit to just sit there in front of the Lugia and just click Terradar Kowtow Cleave into it, and it allowed my Zacian to set up. Like, this Mon just has so much offensive and defensive pressure that it's able to basically just force very specific lines and very specific counterplay out of your opponents. I'm going to go to another replay for an example here. So, this is a test game versus Pengu before the VGC UU Open number 2, I think losers finals? Yeah. So, if you look at this on preview, it's Defiant Ape, Choice Scarf. It's Lore Bray, which is actually pretty scary for this team, like Lore Bray, because it's able to just Terra normal E-speed past Magmar and Pluff to an extent. But I'm able to catch the Ape here. And then from there, once he brings in, no matter what he brings in here, I'm really safely able to just Terra Ghost and redirect. Like, no matter what this Rayquaza wants to do, he can't actually Terra normal E-speed me here. And unless he fakes out my Zacian, like, even if he fakes out my Zacian, okay, let me recheck. Since this Rayquaza protected, I have a very safe turn here. All I do is I play rough Rayquaza, and I sleep out of Rayquaza, and I Terra Ghost sleep out of Rayquaza. This is unpunishable. There's literally nothing Pengu can do about this, except maybe like swap in like Ogerpon, but even then that's like getting 2 KO. So here, you see? Alright. Protect. Protect is also pretty safe here. Yeah, because it covers for like swap to Ogerpon plus Will-O-Wisp Zacian. Yeah, that's a good play. And then Terra normal, E-speed, comes out into the Jumpluff. And then the Rayquaza just goes to sleep, but the game's over. Like, the game is literally just over. Because I'm able to click Sleep Powder again. I'm able to just let my Zacian sit there and let my Zacian just click buttons into this team. And there's, like, basically nothing he can do about it at this point. Like, it's able to pretty much just sit there and click buttons. And redirect. And, like, he can't even touch it at this point because the Torcat's, like, -2. I'm able to see, and even then, like, I'm redirecting this Will-O-Wisp. Like, this Mon just gets so much freaking utility, and it doesn't even have to click Sleep Powder. And then, obviously, even when it does click Sleep Powder, like, your Mon just has a chance to get, like, invalidated for, like, 2 to 3 turns. Like, even here, like, he gets the 2-turn sleep. And even here, like, I'm still clicking Sleep Powder. I'm still fishing for the sleep. Like, it's so riskless here. As, like, it just punishes you from being, like, behind, and it really is just not, like, it's just not a good aspect of the format, in my opinion. Like, it just genuinely makes the format less playable. Because, like, you're able to, it's just interactive. It shuts down basically all counterplay to it. Like, even this, if you look at this, the Safety Goggles Thunderous, because of the Groudon partners, was a really bad bring here. Because of Groudon just being able to sit on the field and wall it. Like, it's not even a good bring here. Even the Torracat, like, which in other scenarios could have done very well into it, just did not do anything. Like, because of how strong the other Mons on Sun are, you don't even have to actually click Sleep Powder a lot of the times to get value. That's the problem I find with Sleep Powder. That's the biggest issue I have with it. Like, overall, I think you just get too much bang for your buck with Sleep Powder. Like, you're just able to click it for free, and there's no real way to punish it outside of, like, very specific tech moves, like, for example, Electric Terry and Thunderous, redirection from Ogerpon and or Magmar, which are less specific, I will admit, but are very easily punished by stuff like Groudon, by stuff like Zacian. You know, like, the common Zacian sets are able to just straight up Ogerpon Wellspring, which means that Ogerpon Wellspring is much less viable as a redirector than it used to be, because it's tasked with dealing with sleep, it's tasked with dealing with stuff like Groudon, stuff like Zacian, and, like, realistically, unless you're committing Terra, you're dying to Terra Fire Heat Crash. You're dying anyways to Pixie Plate boosted, like, Play Rough. Like, straight up, like, your Ogerpon's just dead. And if you're using something like Impish Ogrepon, then like you might as well just be using Magmar at that point, because if you're using like your Ogrepon as a redirection slave, then you should just be using the better redirection mon in the form of Magmar or Electabuzz even, because those mons actually resist the like threats you have to deal with, like they resist Station Bra, which is very important. But yeah, I think probably the worst thing about like Sleep is just that the counterplay to it is very exploitable. I think Growlithe teams are built in a way and optimized in a way that allows them to actually be able to exploit a lot of the very common weaknesses that like Sleep Powder presents. Like they're just able to sit there and take advantage of the pressure that Sleep Powder exerts, and I think that is a very negative aspect of this format. I think it is a very unhealthy aspect of this format. I think Sleep Powder should get banned. But yeah, that's my anti-Sleep Powder propaganda.